Most players think they lose fights in Overwatch because they get out-aimed. They miss shots, the enemy hits shot, and the fight is over. Sometimes that's what it feels like. But watch this clip, okay? So this is a clip from one of my recent games. This is about a mid to hot to like low Masters game. I'm the Genji. We'll watch my POV real quick. So here I hear the Genji behind me, and I turn because I know he's got to be low. There's 3 people looking at him, right? So we get this kill, and this is where I make a big mistake. I think, oh, because we got a kill, we're all gonna walk forward here, right? So that's what I did. I walked forward. I'm like, okay, this brig's low. I'm safe to commit. I wasn't safe to commit. I should have right here, right about. I think it's right about here. Right about. I should have noticed right here after I took this Genji out, my team is not walking forward. All 4 are focused on the Doomfist. Now, is this necessarily my fault? I would say no. I think our tank should walk up and just not worry about this too much, but that might be why I'm stuck Masters. But realistically, this is solo queue environment. I should help them with this Doomfist, or at the very least poke from main and not full commit. But what do? I go in and I lose the fight and I feed because we had an advantage, so I figured walk forward. But what was the purpose of that demonstration right there? Well, it was to show you that nobody's really popping off in this clip. Like, I'm not doing very well. My team didn't do very well. The enemy team didn't do very well. People weren't necessarily carrying, right? We just kind of lost this fight, right? Well, we lost this fight because we lost it like slowly. We lost this fight slowly before it even started. This happens a lot. And it probably happens a lot in your games as well. It's not aim, it's because you don't understand space. Once you see this, the game starts to make way more sense. Okay, what is space? Space is how much room your team has to play. Every step forward you can take safely, that is your space. Every step you're forced to walk back, that space you lost. The more space means you can move forward, you can take angles, and you can pressure. Less space means you're stuck, you're stacked with your team, and you're easier to kill. That's why some fights feel impossible. You're trying to aim with 0 space or 0 room to work with. Let me give you an example here. Okay, I'm going to give you an example here. This Genji right here tried to fight when he had 0 space. Let me show you what I mean. So he tries to take an angle, which is good. It's good to take an angle, but this isn't his space. This is not this Genji's space. And there's 3 people looking at him. What this Genji needed to do, he has his... Oh, wrong Genji. Hang on. What this Genji needed to do is use his deflect here. He gets his dash. He just simply... This Genji went too far forward in space that wasn't his. Let me show you a little bit more about what I mean. Alright, so here's where the mistake happens, right? He walks forward. The Widow knows he's here. He should know the Widow knows he's here, okay? Boom. Right here, he needed to leave. He needed to press his deflect and walk back because this is not his space. Yes, it's okay to take the angle, but take it from back here. But instead, he just presses deflect, walks forward, and dies. Now, let me give you an example of... Okay, here I'm going to give you an example of a team. We just won the team fight, but this is because my tank didn't push up here and take this free space, inherently free space. There is no reason. We just won the team fight. Everybody's dead. The tank should be here. Take the free space when it's given to you. But the tank decided not to. So inherently, this becomes my fault because I didn't wait for my tank or play with my tank. But I almost die for it here. But this is an example of just not taking free space. You absolutely, as a tank player, need to take this free space. When you win a fight or when you're up people and it's like a 2v5, a 4v2, whatever, you need to take the free space. There is no excuse for you to not have this space. But because this is a solo queue environment, if you're a DPS player or a support player, you need to realize, okay, my team isn't playing up here, so I can't. Yeah, everybody here was basically just stacked. Nobody was trying to take angles except me, but I should have realized, instead of, deepening my angle all the way to here, I could have played here instead, right? Here, maybe even here, right? Because I'm still in LOS. What does LOS mean? Let me explain it really quick. LOS means line of sight. So let's say I'm this Kiriko and my Genji decides, oh wait, let me skip. Let's say I'm this Kiriko, right? And my Genji plays up here. I can't help my Genji from there, right? That is because my Genji is not in LOS. LOS means line of sight. Okay, now that you understand that, instead of me taking this angle up here, I should have played here and or here because they are both in line of sight of my supports. But instead, my team had zero pressure. They had no cooldowns forced before the initial fight started. And this is kind of my fault, but I shouldn't have played up that far. Everybody is stacked here. Not a single person is taking an angle. Now, this is Rialto, so there's long sight lines and Widow can play him. But mostly this applies for every map. When everyone is stacked and nobody takes angles, the enemy can walk forward completely for free. And if that happens, the fight is usually already over. Okay, let's talk a little bit about angles. Okay, this is where most people throw away free space. As I just demonstrated in that last clip, I'm going to elaborate a little bit more about angles. If your whole team stands in one spot, you don't really have space. You're a lot easier to deal with and you just get collapsed on and die a lot faster. But on the other hand, angles actually create more space. Now let me give you an example of that. Okay, so here's an example. Now this is not too long after that last clip I just showed you guys, but I realize this is mostly me because I remember this game and I'm just kind of trying to go based off of me. But I notice this spot is free. So I take this angle, right? Okay. And then I'm like, okay, that angle's not really accessible because there's a pocketed Genji, right? Pocketed Genji and a Doomfist. So what do? I go and take a different angle. I go down here, take this angle. And what this is allowing, even though the Doomfist is diving our backline, what this is allowing is this isn't allowing Juno to walk forward and help their tank. And also, I can just very quickly, since I'm playing Genji, go right back up here, take this angle, then they can't walk forward and help their Doomfist. And I think Juno dies here because I take this angle, right? Yeah, Juno dies. And I inherently created a lot more space and forced the Doomfist out, or he dies here, or is forced to use his ultimate, right? But I inherently forced a lot more space with that play because I played up here and didn't allow the Juno to walk for free. Okay, now let me explain why this works. I gave you an example and showed you, but let me give you a different example. So let's say I decided to stack here with my Domina, you know what I mean, and decided to play here. Let me show you what happens. Not only does this Juno have to do nothing and not worry about me on the flank, right? But this Juno doesn't have to even fight anything right here. She can just stand right here and the whole fight is happening right here in front of the Juno. So, and this also applies to the Sierra. That means the whole fight is just happening right here in front of the Sierra. But because I played down here, if the enemies don't turn around and help their Juno here, the Juno dies for sure. But also, if they did, what would happen is not only would the Doomfist get zero help, but also they are forced to look in two different spots. Because if I just played right here, they could see the whole fight from right here. as I just said, right? But since I'm playing here, I force attention from a different spot, and it makes it more uncomfortable for them. Now I'm going to give you an example. Let me backtrack just a little here. Now I am going to give you an example of a fight where we were all grouped and we lost the fight because of it. Nobody here is taking any angles. We are all 5 in one spot, and that allows them to just completely collapse on us and take this space 100% for free. Watch. Winston dives in, forces Widow out. I'm not on an angle. My Dominant tries her best to hold the space, but we all get forced out, and we lose this fight because of it. Now, I try to take an angle, but I'm too late, and we lose the fight. Because nobody at the beginning of this fight just started on an angle, we all stacked together. It allowed them to collapse on us and just completely win the fight. Because the enemy only had to look in one direction. Let me show you a little bit more what I mean by that. So let's say that you are this Winston player, right? You see, oh, all 5 are right here. Guess what? Remember the analogy I was telling you about where you only have to look in one spot and see everybody? That's exactly what Winston sees. That's exactly what Sierra sees, Genji, Juno, Brig, the whole enemy team. They see, oh, everybody's stacked. So what does that make the Winston do? Well, he realizes I can just walk here. So what does he do? He jumps on Widow, forces Widow out. Oh. Jumps on... Oh. Yeah, he jumps on the Widow, forces Widow out. And if you actually look at this fight, we are still all stacked, basically, in one spot. And just the Winston jumping forward here allowed their whole team to collapse. Now imagine if I had decided to start on this angle, or over here, or down here, then I wouldn't. It would be a lot harder for them to walk forward, and they wouldn't have just been able to take all this space for completely free. Basically what happened in this clip is everybody stacked, the enemy looked in one direction, and we got rolled. That's the simple rule. If the enemy only has one place to look, you're doing it wrong. If they have to split attention, you're creating space. Now, I know we've been into it a little bit, but I want to explain how each role uses this. Now, for the tank, it is mostly the tank's job to take and hold space. What this means is walking forward when you have resources. This right here, what I just showed, is a perfect example of a tank taking space that is incredibly free. If you see the whole enemy team grouped, your whole team is right behind you, right here, and they can easily see you and heal you. Take the space. Sometimes as a tank, you need to do a 180 before you make an engage and be like, is my team ready for me to jump in or walk forward or boosters in, whatever it is, right? You need to look behind you and be like, do I have the resources here to walk forward and capitalize on this space? If you sit at a choke doing nothing, your team has 0 room. If you walk forward and force attention, your team gets space to play. Bad tanks wait forever. The good tanks that rank up, they take ground when they're allowed to. They take the space when they're allowed to take the space. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about DPS. DPS, your job is to use space and create the angles. If you stand behind your tank all game, you're wasting potential damage, potential cooldowns forced, potential ultimates forced, potential free space. You're wasting it. Take off angles. Let me give you an example of taking an off angle. All right, this is the same game, but this is an example of me taking an off angle. So I noticed here, let me go spectate just. So this is an example. Of me taking an off angle and not just standing behind my tank. So I take this angle, kill the Genji, and then I see my tank walking forward, so I walk forward. Now what happens here because of this? Well, we hold the space. And Monkey gets forced out. He used Primal. All because I took an angle and their Genji wasn't allowed to capitalize on the Monkey taking space. So indirectly, I carried this fight purely because I didn't walk main and play with my tank. A lot of DPS players, now this applies not only to Genji, this applies to Soldier, Reaper, Junkrat, Sierra. It doesn't matter what DPS you're playing. Don't always take, and it can be a small off angle. This is a short off angle. This is main. This is where my tank's playing. And this is a short off angle. Now with a character like Genji, you can take deeper off angles, but with a character like Soldier, you can't really. Well, actually, that's a bad example. More like a character like, more like a character like Ash or Hanzo. You can't take as deep as an off angle, but with a character like Genji, you can. But this is an example of what happens when I don't just sit main. Because look at what would happen if I just sat main and shot with my tank. Well, Genji would be like, my Monkey is primaling. I'm going to go in and watch. I guarantee you somebody gets low. And low enough. He would have jumped on the Genji or the Junkrat. He would have been like, okay, I'm jumping on the Junkrat, right? But my Monkey's primaling, I'm going in. Junkrat probably would have died. Kiriko would have died. But because I stood at this angle and forced the Genji out, we win this fight. So DPS, take off angles, force people to look at you. Even if you don't get a kill, most of the time you are creating pressure and that gives your team more room. Okay, now I'm going to give you an example for support. Now, support, your job is to help your team keep space. Most supports will play too far back. And let me give you an example of a support helping their team take space. So what happened in this fight is my team decided to pop Kiriko ult. So they kited, and then Juno realized we need a W key here. So they pop rally. The Brig does an amazing job here too. She forces the space, uses rally, helps them hold the space. So Juno uses torpedoes, gets a bunch of damage out, bunch of healing, and then pops Orbital Ray. An Orbital Ray not only allows her to live my dive, but it also allows them to win this fight and take this space for free. Now imagine if the Juno had decided to play back here, up here, just stay here and just shoot and heal and heal and heal. Well, they would have lost. They wouldn't have won this fight. They would have lost, period, plain and simple. But because Juno did that, even though she dies, they win the fight and they cap second. If you're too far back on support, you can't help your tank or your DPS hold ground, and you can't help your DPS take angles. Good supports move up when it's safe and keep the team stable. You're not just healing, you're enabling space. When you throw space, like throw the space away and give it up for free, that is where most games get lost. All right, same game here. I'm going to give you an example of our team not taking a single angle and just letting them pressure us for free. And this is what I'm talking about. When you throw away space, you lose games. This is an example of throwing away space. I could have TP'd in as Reaper back here, or my Junkrat could have walked over here, or even my Kiriko could walk over here. Shoot, 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 shoot. Not give away this space for completely free. But what did we do? We decided to just stay here and play and not take any angles and just stack again. So naturally, we lost the fight. Nobody took an angle. I mean, this is considered a soft off angle, but I'm mostly playing with my tank. Sierra ults. Nobody's over here to force her out. So they're able to just walk us down, collapse on us, and win the fight. There you go. So this is how they win the fight. Backing up when nobody's pressuring you or giving away free space, free high ground, not taking angles, and pushing when you're down players even. We weren't down a player. It was an even fight. Not taking angles. You don't notice it, but when you do this, you're flipping winning fights into losing fights. The simple rule that I want you to take away from this, use this in your game and you will see good results. If no one's shooting you, move forward until they do shoot you. If they are shooting you and you have no resources, back up. That's the core of space. Like I said in the beginning of this video, most people think that you lose games because you get out-aimed, outdone mechanically, but I'm telling you right now, a lot of games, and probably a lot of your games, are lost because you're not taking any space, or you're giving up free space, or you're going too far in to enemies' space when it's not your space. If you fix this, your games get easier, and they get easier fast. You stop feeling stuck in the rank that you're in, and you start controlling fights instead of reacting. If you want more breakdowns and more analysis videos like this, let me know in the comment section below, and please also let me know how I can do videos better like this, because this is going to be my first breakdown video. And if you want more like this, subscribe and drop a like for me. Thank you guys for watching this, and I hope if it helped you at all. Thank you guys for watching. If this helped you at all, please let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys in my next video.